Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by The Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
This episode is brought to you by Polestar. There's only one true way to experience the all-electric luxury SUV Polestar 3, and that's to take a test drive. It can go from 0 to 60 in as little as 4.8 seconds with the dynamic handling of a sports car. But to truly understand how it commands the road, you need to be behind the wheel. Up to 350 miles of range, the 3D surround sound system by Bowers & Wilkins. It's all something you have to experience to believe. So book your test drive for Polestar 3 today at Polestar.com.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
All right, Duke fans, it's time for another edition of the DBR podcast, the Duke Basketball Roundup, episode number 732. This is Jason Evans joining you. I'm here with my buddy Donald Wine. Donald, by the way, it's a full episode, even though it may be a little bit shorter, because when it comes to analyzing the NBA draft, when it comes to talking to Jay Bilas, that is always a full episode. Am I right or am I right?
It's a full-time job. When we're talking about the draft and where our guys could go. Do you know how many mock drafts I have scoured to see where they're thinking our boards are going? The answer is all of them. And I've done it multiple times because we have 5 of these. We've already done one. If you have not listened to one and see on James, do that. But now we have 4 more guys to go. So I'm going to be looking through these drafts 4 more times and then probably 1 more before the actual draft happens next Wednesday, which, Jason, I'm very excited for.
Yeah, and by the way, just in terms of the news and everything, so you know, we're recording this at 4:00 on Tuesday afternoon, the 17th of June. If something crazy happens, don't blame us if it's not in this episode. But we're going to begin with our conversation about Tyrese Proctor, the next guy sort of on our list of Dukies headed into the NBA draft. Tyrese, of course, a junior who could have come back to school. And one of the key questions that I asked Jay Bilas is whether or not Tyrese should have maybe come back to school. We've teased it a little bit, but let's go ahead and get you now to the conversation that Don and I had just last week with Jay Bilas, ESPN draft analyst, Jay Bilas, about the prospects of Tyrese Proctor and the NBA draft.
Jay, let's shift our attention to Tyrese Proctor. And again, we'll ask some of these similar questions, but in the case of Tyrese Proctor, what do you think the NBA likes when he sees him? Because obviously he's been on their radar for quite a while, even from before he got to Duke.
Yeah, I think when Tyrese was a freshman, expectations were really high, and there were a lot of people that expected him to be a one-and-done player. Things didn't work out that way, and he stayed in school longer. He's still got a great, I think, a great reputation. But I don't know that the ceiling is seen as being quite as high as people thought it might be a couple years ago. That to me, that's not a big deal. I'm one of those that thinks, kind of, you're going to show who you are at some point, and I don't know that Tyrese has shown completely who he is yet, but he's still got a ton of ability. He shoots it well. He's a good handler. He wasn't really a lead guard, like kind of a ball in your hands all the time, facilitating point guard at Duke. That doesn't mean in the NBA where you're expected to pass ahead at times and all that can't be who he is. I would still like to see him get physically stronger, and I think he will do that with his physical maturity over time. But he plays hard. He's a really good defender. There's a lot to like. He's just not after a few years though. Sometimes it's a weird process. Sometimes the shine comes off a little bit in what you think, like what your expectations were. And sometimes those expectations aren't fair. And then it's not fair to say, because he's 21, he's shown everything he has now. So we know exactly what the ceiling is, and it's nothing more. Like, that's not right. It's not fair, and that's not the end of the story. So he's still writing the story, and so I'm confident that he's still got the same chance to be more than we've seen thus far, and we've seen a lot of really good things.
Well, to that vein, obviously we usually ask, what a guy needs to do to improve, but in his case, what can Tyrese do in the short term to kind of reverse that concern that people who do believe in the ceiling talk, what does he have to do to kind of reverse that trend?
I think getting stronger physically is a key for him. It's not the whole ball game, because he's got a lot of attributes that are really, really positive and really good. But look, we all kind of fall victim to this. And I don't care whether you've been watching this for 30 years or for 3. When you're younger, you see a lot more runway. After you've seen something for a period of time, even though it's within a certain system, and he hasn't played outside of the Duke system, and in the view of most, you tend to peg someone, and that's not always right. And that's the hard part of this. But he's got a lot to like. And I think as he goes forward, especially when you get in the NBA, I mean, he's going to have to fight and scrap for everything, just like everyone else is going to have to. And he's going to have to prove himself again. Like, he's put together a very, very good body of work thus far. But after you get drafted, everybody starts, like John Shire would say, or Coach K, when you go into the NCAA tournament, you're 0-0. When you go into the NBA, nobody cares what your clippings are or where you were drafted or all that. You got to go play, and he's capable of doing that.
Jay, we saw a lot of guys who are sort of projected in the same range as Tyrese elect to go back to school for significant NIL paydays. If Tyrese goes around where people think, there's a pretty good case to be made that he would have made more money returning to college than he will make on his first year of his NBA contract. Although the money's, not probably somewhat similar.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think at all that Tyrese maybe made a little bit of a mistake? In decide he's one of the guys that you look at and you go, oh, he could have come back because he's not assured of being a first rounder. What's your thought on all that?
Yeah, he's probably not going to be a first rounder. My sense is he goes in the second round in the 30s, but that's just my view. I think it depends on each individual. At some point, everybody's had enough, and maybe he's just had enough. He's ready to take the next step. I mean, I always find it curious, like, with the House settlement, now the discussion is because so many people with college love to go to the doomsday scenario. They're like, oh, the players don't even have to go to class anymore. Like, yeah, they do. Stop it. Or there's no reason to even make them be students anymore. Yes, there is. Stop it. And for a guy like Tyrese, he could come back and play another year, play another two, I guess, if he wanted to, depending on how things worked out and how eligibility works out. But at some point, everybody said, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And especially when you see your peers going, I understand it. He's an Australian kid. There's more than just the NBA in the future for Tyrese. I mean, he could go and play in the NBA, NBL, and in Australia if he wanted to. There's a lot of different options for him. But at some point it's time, and he's the only one that knows that, because nobody's questioning whether Kaman or Khan or Cooper comes out. They're questioning him. And I don't have a problem with any of it. When you're ready, you're ready.
So, like the others, obviously, we're going to ask you over under for setting the pick at number 40. You mentioned that he might go in the 30s. Do you think he goes in those first 10 picks of the second round, or do you think he goes a little bit under pick 40?
That's where I have him slotted. But in the second round, he could easily go in the 40s. But he could also be taken with one of the last picks of the first round. That's certainly possible. When you start looking at the second round, there are going to be a number of internationals that go mid to late in the first round, and then there are a number of big guys. You're saying, how do you factor in, a guy like Ryan Kalkbrenner of Creighton? Does he go early in the second round, or because he's more of a he's not a perimeter shooting threat at 7 feet tall, but he is an outstanding defender, rebounder, rim protector, things like that. Where is his value there in today's game? Then there are a couple of mystery people like, Cedric Coward, who was supposed to go to Duke from Washington State. He only played in 6 games last year, but you look at tape of him, and I haven't seen him in person yet, but you look at tape of him, you go, there's a lot to like there. And then he's the guy who you're going, hey, where's the ceiling? But who knows? If he had played a full year, maybe you're going, well, we saw 30 plus games of it, and it wasn't any different than the first 6. I don't know, and that's in a way that could kind of help him in the draft. We'll see. Sometimes mystery is a little bit helpful, but yeah, I tend to think he'll go before 40. Tyrese Proctor before 40, but I'm not crazy confident about that.
All right, summer is here. More sun, more light, more time to do all the things that make summer so special. And the number one thing that you don't want to be doing all summer, spending hours cooking inside. That is where Factor comes in.
That's right, Jason. Factor's chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals are ready in just 2 minutes, taking the hassle out of eating well. With 45 weekly menu options, you could pick gourmet meals that fit your goals. It's easy to savor more this summer. Factor meals pack in the flavor with none of the fuss. You can get outside instead of prepping and cooking indoors.
Man, that sounds really good. Get started, folks, at factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off. Use the code DukeBB50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That code again, DukeBB50 off at factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Again, factormeals.com/DukeBB50 off.
After Zoomies at the dog park, it's time for Drive Up at Target. In goes a big bag of kibble and one squeaky chicken toy for the good boy. Drive Up that's ready when you are, only in the Target app. Just tap Target.
USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks, or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Visit USAA.com/bundle.
Bundle savings are off total premium, not available in all states or in all situations. To qualify, auto policy must be active prior to property policy issue, subject to change. Restrictions apply. Membership eligibility and product restrictions apply and are subject to change. USAA means United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card, based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
All right, Donald, we're back from the break, continuing the conversation about Tyrese Proctor. And, the thing that struck me is that Jay Bilas mentioned that Tyrese needs to get stronger. And one of the questions that I sort of wonder about Tyrese is what position he plays in the NBA, because I think he kind of look, his best season at Duke was the season he didn't play point guard. I'm not sure that he's an NBA point guard. He's not creative enough for other players on offense that I think of him as an NBA point guard. He's got the size, he's got the length to play shooting guard, but the strength, I really think that is a big thing for Tyrese, especially on his defense. He's a very good defender. One of his calling cards, in my opinion, in the NBA is his defense, but he's going to have to get stronger. And you heard Jay Bilas talk about that a number of times.
I think the strength issue, I think is a good point, because as you mentioned, there were times where, and it's weird, right? Because you have guys in the NBA who look like Chet Holmgren, who cannot be moved. You have guys who look like Boban Marjanovic, who are as light as paper, and you can flutter them whenever, you push them around wherever you want. And so I preface that to say that Tyrese Proctor, on his, like, when you look at him, it looks like he has not improved his strength, like just by looks, right? He's not chiseled, but that's unfair to him because, one, Sion James was next to him a lot of the time, and that's just unfair for anybody. But also, he has gotten stronger. But I think just like going to the next level, he has to take his strength in that department to another level. And I think that's the key here is, again, when you have the ball, you don't want to get bodied. When you are off the ball, you don't want to get pushed around, because all of that takes energy. And in the NBA, they like the guys, especially in the second unit where he will likely start. They want those guys to be able to be efficient, and to do that when you have your opportunity, you're only going to get 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. You want to be able to go 100% every single time and not get tired out by the fact that everybody at that level is very strong. And it's not just the ones that he's going to go up against, right? Yeah, he could go up against, somebody in the second unit that's a shooting guard, but he could go up against a power forward or a three that is the size of LeBron James. And I'm not saying that he's going to be doing, but that, just think
Good
about
luck with that, Tyrese.
Right. Think about that, like, change in strength that he has to do. He was guarding guys from, Western Carolina or whatever, right? Like, he's going from that to perhaps get, LeBron type players in the NBA. And so
not even LeBron. I mean, like, just think about guys like currently in the NBA finals, Lou Dort or Benedict Mathurin. I mean, these guys are chiseled, and these are wings in the NBA.
I mean,
Jalen Williams, for that matter. I mean, come on.
Jalen Williams is a great example. I mean, he just put up 40 last night, right? Like, he's a great example of a guy who, on a team, you're probably thinking, okay, guard SGA, guard, Chet Holmgren, Lou Dort. Oh, this J-Dub guy just went off for 40. Those are the type of guys that you need to be prepared to defend. And I think that's where the strength is really going to come in. So I expect him to take that to another level, but the question is how quick can he do it? And I think the great thing is wherever he gets drafted, and you and I, when we do our over under, we are assuming that he's going to be drafted because I think he should be. But I also think that the NBA at least has an idea of where he can play on offense, and they know about his qualities on defense. But the summer league is going to be really good for Tyrese Proctor to know where on that level of strength that he really is compared to other athletes.
So, I want to talk a little bit more about some of his weaknesses and then get to his strengths. He's not explosive. Tyrese is not. He plays below the rim. That's just the reality with him, and he's not going to create a lot for himself. But the positives out here are the reason if you're an NBA team you're drafting him is outstanding passer, great connector. I mean, you saw it last year. The reason all 5 of Duke's starters from this past season are going to be drafted, one of the reasons is they showed that they play together and make their teammates better because they all elevated each other. And the NBA is looking for guys who can be connectors, guys who understand that passing isn't just about making one pass, it's about making the second or third pass and really getting someone open. And then obviously it's the shooting. It is almost funny to look back. Tyrese Proctor shot 32% from 3 as a freshman. And frankly, that was elevated. Remember, like the first 3 or 4 months of the year, he was hitting maybe 25%. It was not good at all. Elevated a little bit late in the year. Then last year as a sophomore, hit 35%. And then this year he's over 40%. And NBA teams are looking at that and they're like, guy getting better from 3-point range every single year. If that's a trend, you want to be buying on that trend for sure if you're an NBA team. And the last thing I wanted to mention was this notion that I brought up to Jay of, the money that you would get in NIL versus the money you'll get in the NBA. Because it's not a sure thing that Tyrese is going to get a full NBA contract. And, if he doesn't, then he's probably looking at making $700,000 on an NBA two-way deal. And two-way deal would be not a bad situation for Tyrese. I think he probably gets a full contract, but he could be on a two-way. But regardless, I think in NIL, he would probably have made more. His rookie deal will be at $1.4 million. That's what the NBA, second rounders in the NBA, that's what they're making. If you get a guaranteed deal, it's right around 1.4. And I think Tyrese would have been above 2 million had he come back to Duke or wherever, if he just decided to do the transfer portal, who knows? So he left some money on the table, but I understand what Jay Bilas had to say about, Jay's words were, at some point, everybody's had enough. And I think that was the case with Tyrese. He had every year of his career seen his teammates, his buddies move on, and he was ready to move on. And I'm fine with it. I wish he decided differently. But I don't think there was a bad decision to be made, and he's still incredibly beloved, and he's going to make a lot of money. That's for sure.
So on that note, right, I think there's a factor here about him going to the NBA that is largely forgotten. And I'm going to use, again, I scoured all the mock drafts. I'm going to use this as a preface to what I'm about to indicate. The Athletic has Tyrese Proctor going 36 to the Brooklyn Nets. Bleacher Report is the one I hope is right. They have him going 37 to the Pistons. ESPN and Yahoo have him going 43rd to the Utah Jazz. He'd be reunited with Kyle Filipowski. And Sports Illustrated and Net Scouts both have him going 41st to the Golden State Warriors. That's the most intriguing place for him. Do you know why, Jason? Because Australia is a big proponent of the Golden State Warriors. They get a lot of Golden State games. Steph Curry is one of the most revered athletes that is not Australian in Australia. A lot of their games are on TV because of the fact that there's not a lot of time, as close a time gap as there is between the United States and Australia. A lot of those games are able to be watched on television at decent hours of the day and night. And one thing that does not translate to NIL is the money that he can get as an Australian in Australia. All those endorsement deals, because the Golden State Warriors are a global brand. Duke, for lack of a better word, is not. compared to the NBA and compared to the Golden State Warriors, right? So the fact that he would stay and get more domestic dollars and they'd have to work around the deals that he has to do with the student visas. But the minute that he jumps into the NBA, all of that Australian money gets opened up to him. And so I think he has the potential, if he latches onto a Golden State, that again, he will be on TV a lot. He will be not necessarily a face, but a guy that people see on that second unit every game. He could be a guy that gets a lot of endorsement money from his native country. And I think that might be, again, a factor. And it's not just Golden State, right? It's a lot of these if he ends up on the Lakers, he ends up on Denver, doesn't matter. The NBA is a global brand that is viewed there. And I think that is a portal that is waiting to be open in this particular case of Tyrese Proctor. So I'm with you. I think, at least we're selfish in the way that we would love to have seen him for a senior year because we know what he could have done with this team and been one of the leaders. And, we would have loved to have him back. But I don't think he's in any way making a mistake by going to the NBA because, again, if it comes to money, there will be plenty of it for him to go get. He just has to play well enough to go get it.
Yeah. All right. Hey, let's do our over under as we wrap it up with Tyrese here. The number is 40. Does he go 1 to 40 or does he go 41 and beyond? You gave us the mock drafts. It's like evenly divided.
Yeah.
I guess leaning a little bit to over 40, but pretty close. So where are you on Tyrese?
I am going to go slightly under 1 to 40. I think that he gets picked in that 36 to 40 range. I think he's good enough. I think the NBA has had their eye on him for long enough that, and the fact that, remember, we talked about at the combine that he wasn't participating in those drills. And the word was that was an indication that the NBA had said, yo, we've seen what we need to see from you. Like, you're going to be drafted. I think this is a case where he gets in that 36-40 range. And I think that's surprising considering the fact that a lot of people have him 41st and lower. But he's steadily moving up to the fact where I think that one of those teams in that first 10 picks of the second round are going to go get him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he goes there. I think part of it is there's a lot of internet. First of all, there are a lot of guys who pulled out of the draft, and it helped Tyrese's stock. And there are even a fair number of international guys who I think could have been in the mix there, in that early middle, third to second third of the second round, who have pulled out of the draft as well. Guys who are going for the NIL dollars in college as opposed to the NBA contracts and then two-way deals and things like that. So I think that's helped Tyrese's stock a little bit. I also think teams value shooting. They just value it so much. And I think you've got to look. Teams are going to look at the tape from those first couple games of the NCAA tournament. They're going to see Tyrese Proctor knocking down everything. And they're going to go, yeah, this guy goes into heater. He can help my team win games. So I think Tyrese is, I think he may have, Tyrese is the guy I think who may even surprise. I could see him being called, like 32, 33. I would not be shocked if he found his way in there because all it takes is one team going, a guy who can shoot like that with a Duke pedigree. I'm on that.
And the fact that this is the first 10 picks of the second round, that's still prime trade territory. Like, just because I said the Pistons have the 37th pick doesn't necessarily mean if he goes 37th, it will be to Detroit. There will be some teams that are still trying to find, again, that shooter to round out their team, and they can be trading into that position to get someone like Tyrese Proctor.
Yeah, Donald, we've got a little bit of other news we want to cover, and I know that some of this story sort of came out a few days ago, and we're only getting to it now, but we do want to put a pin in it, which is that we're continuing to get some more details about Duke's schedule this season. We think that we've locked down sort of the last of the major conference opponents. That is the Florida Gators. It'll be a game in the ACC SEC Challenge, Duke against the defending national champions. This is, of course, Donald, anyone who's listened to our podcast the past month or so, anytime we discuss the schedule, we go, oh, we don't know our SEC Challenge opponent. And then I kind of go, or you, either one of us, we both go, I think it's going to be Florida. You can kind of.
Florida was definitely the leader in the clubhouse once they won the national championship.
Yeah, exactly. It just makes so much sense. These are two teams that have not played a lot, which, adds to some intrigue in all this. Last year, obviously, everyone from the start of the tournament was picking a Florida and Duke national championship game. That was the the hottest pick out there, and that's what everyone expected to see. And we just came up a little tiny sliver short of it. If it hadn't, I'm not going to get into it. I'm not going to get into it. But and I'm sure ESPN and the talking heads and the such will bill this a little bit as the matchup we never got, even though Duke's entire starting five is gone and much of Florida's starting five is gone. Walter Clayton won't be back. There are a lot of other guys there who aren't going to be back. So not nearly the same as these two teams playing back in April. But I'm very excited for this. It is a super high quality opponent. This Duke schedule, ridiculous how tough it is. Duke has 7 major conference opponents that we're playing. I believe only one of them, the Florida game, is in Cameron. Other than that, all the rest of the games are neutral except for the Michigan State game, which will be on the road. By the way, we know the date now of that Michigan State game. It's December 6th. And then the other little scheduling note we got is that one of the non-power conference teams that Duke will be playing next year is Lipscomb. And it's really easy to go, who? But if you pay attention to college basketball, you know that Lipscomb is pretty darn good at basketball. Last year they were a top 100 team in KenPom. This is not Duke going out and playing little sisters of the poor. This is Duke really playing some high quality opponents.
This schedule is insane. So let's start there. Jason, the worst team we have on the schedule is Western Carolina, and then it's like a nice lift to Indiana State, Lipscomb, and then you have basically the top 30. Essentially is the rest of our schedule. I think there's room for one more. We don't have the date for the Michigan game that's supposed to be here in DC, and I think there's room because of the now 18 game ACC schedule. There's room for one more non-conference game to be added. I would say that's not going to be a big team, but we have like 18 of them already. So I think when it comes to Florida, this game is exactly what we wanted. This is what the ACC SEC challenge is kind of all about. This is what we used to get when we were doing the Big Ten challenge, right? It'd be these kind of major games against teams that were in the Final Four or Elite Eight or won the national title the year before. And season ticket holders rejoice. You get it at our house. So be loud and proud. And Jason might need to figure out a way to get down for that game because that one's going to be a mega one. But I when I'm looking at this ACC SEC schedule, and Jason, just a shameless plug, I listened to you. You did a great job on JJ Jackson's Lockdown Blue Devils,
sir.
When you were talking about this schedule, and I just want to run through a couple of the ones that I'm not going to do the whole ACC SEC slate, but a couple of ones that I thought were interesting. North Carolina at Kentucky. I thought that they would not do this in year 2, but North Carolina feels like it's fallen far enough that they needed to kind of pair this up the way that they did. NC State at Auburn. You mentioned on the show that it was an incredible type of matchup, especially considering NC State wasn't that great last year, but the wave of NC State and Will Wade coming in and just the change that they have around that program makes that an intriguing matchup. Clemson and Alabama, another good one. You mentioned rightfully so that Clemson and Duke were the only two teams in the ACC to actually win games in this challenge last year. And I am dying laughing at the fact that Stanford somehow has ducked the smoke of the SEC 2 years in a row. Stanford and Cal are the only two teams in the ACC that are not a part of this challenge. And Stanford was not a part of it last year either. So Stanford has yet to play the ACC SEC challenge. Who knows if they ever will at this rate. So far, they're 0 for 2. But there's a lot of interesting games on this, and the ACC needs to figure out a way to show that they are better than they were last year, because this schedule is not, or at least the ACC SEC schedule is not doing the conference any favors. There's not a lot of games here that you can pluck as easy wins. And so they're going to have to go and do it. Again, Miami and Ole Miss, Miami being dead last in the ACC last year. And now, again, under Jay Lucas, a revamped roster, who knows what they can do against Ole Miss team. That's an upstart team that made the tournament. So really, really looking forward to this, Jason, but especially that Florida Duke game. Once again, that's going to be the crown jewel of this challenge.
ACC has got to find a way to win at a minimum 4 or 5 of these games. You just can't have another year where we only win 2. It makes the challenge uninteresting, and it showcases how bad your conference is.
Right. That's the biggest thing. Five may not do it, right? You may need to. I think at the end of the day, if you get 5 or 6 people going to say, "Yep, say ACC's trash," you got your, Duke and Clemson and Louisville. They won games, but who else? I think the real key here is the bottom of the conference has to show well. That's how you win these ACC, SEC challenges or these challenges against other conferences, and that is how a whole conference in the eyes of the nation goes, oh, the ACC is a little bit better than we thought. So we're talking about, the Florida States. We're talking about the Miamis. We're talking about the Pitts. We're talking about the SMUs, the Wake Forest. It's like those teams have to win as well, because if it's just Duke and Carolina and Clemson and teams that people already expected to be good, then it doesn't change the profile of the conference.
Last thing I have on all this scheduling stuff. 2012. The 2012 Duke team is the Duke team that had the highest rated non-conference schedule strength, according to Ken Pomeroy, since he started doing this back in the 1990s. That team had a non-conference strength of schedule of 17th toughest schedule in the country. The very next year in 2013, they had the 18th toughest schedule. Other than those two, Duke has never had a top 20 non-conference schedule ranking. This past year, the 2025 team, non-conference schedule was ranked number 21. Duke played, remember we talked about it. Duke played some tough teams.
That was a tough schedule too. And I think that schedule was weakened by the fact that teams like Kentucky and Kansas, who traditionally are very good, ended up not being as good.
Yeah, exactly. But it is clear to me that John Shire is trying to get this team to have a top 20, hell, probably a top 10 non-conference schedule. And I am here for it. I think it's very exciting. Now you just got to make sure you win some of those games.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't beat Carolina and play all these teams and not beat them. Right.
Yeah.
I guess that gets you in the tournament still. If we're establishing precedent, Bubba Cunningham. But I think for this, he wants this team to know, there will be no let up. We will have close games, competitive games, tough games every single night, so that we are ready for the NCAA tournament. He also wants to show the committee, yes, we're in the ACC, but we went out and started all these games. We played all these teams. We beat all these teams. Don't come around if we're really good and say, oh, you're not necessarily number 1 seed because some team from the SEC is better than you, despite the fact that we probably beat them, right? Last year, who was the number 1 overall seed? Auburn. Who was Duke going up against? Auburn. Who did they say was weaker than Auburn? Duke. Who beat Auburn? Duke. So we don't want that scenario. And I think he's saying, okay, we're not going to leave it in the hands of the judges, so to speak. We're going to go out here and get these haymakers in against these tough teams and hopefully get some knockouts.
With that, we will call it quits on episode 732 of the Duke Basketball Roundup, the DBR podcast. I'm Jason. He's Donald. Stick around. We're going to be back in your feed very, very soon as we continue to break down all the Dukies in the NBA draft. Our breakdown of Man is coming up very, very soon. But until then, here's the Duke band. They're playing us out and taking us. So I got to tell you, my family is doing something insane. Not this weekend, but next weekend. So my son, the one who works for Disney Plus, just got a big raise, and he's being moved. Well, he's leaving Disney, and he's going to Netflix, doing a similar kind of job, but at the bigger company. So because he's leaving Disney, we're not going to have free passes to all the Disney parks anymore. And he leaves on July 3rd, like the day before July 4th.
So you're doing a binge run?
So we are all 4 of us, both my sons, my wife, and I, we just planned this like literally last night. In fact, we haven't even bought the tickets yet. We're all flying down to Orlando and doing a final free Disney run.
Yeah,
it's not going to be free with the price of the plane fares and the hotels and stuff, but the tickets at least will be free. So we're doing that.
Those tickets are like $200 now. So that
more than that, baby.
Yeah. So $200. Like, I think I went one time and me and my buddy were like, hey, it's off day. Let's go to Disney. And we looked at the prices that morning. It was supposed to rain too. And they're like, oh, we have dynamic pricing. So it's $200. And I closed it. I didn't even look to see what the other digit was. I just closed it. It was like, we're going to go to a brewery instead.
I'm super excited because I've never been on. They have a new Tron ride and a new Guardians of the Galaxy ride. But I haven't been in a couple of years, and so I haven't been on those yet. Those are new rides they've had lately. So I'm really excited for that. But I mean, like, I would go on the Star Wars Rise of the Resistance and the Avatar ride, like, all day.
I did Disneyland a couple years ago. My buddy had it, and so he was able to get us in for free. And we did. So it was my first time at Disneyland since I was like 2.
Oh, wow.
I don't remember Disneyland. Like, I remember going to California and my mom saying we're going to Disneyland, but I don't remember nothing, right? There's pictures that show I was there. So he got me the button, the like first time button.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it's like, I mean, everyone was like, oh, congratulations. Is this your first time at Disneyland? I was like, yeah, since I was like 2. And they're like, how old are you now? And I was like, 41. They're like, yeah, that 2 doesn't count. Like, this is your first time. Enjoy it. So it was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's the happiest place on earth.
Literally. There's no, I mean, everyone walking around like, have a great time. You're just like, damn, everyone's so nice. Like, this is great. Then you get on one of those rides, and I was like, look, man, if this thing drops and this is no longer the happiest place of my life, we're gonna have a conversation. And it was fun. So
I love it.